And here we are, take two, Slingin Dirt Media. I'm DJ Smallwood in the shop here with Big Daddy Shawn Tolson. Shawn, what's going on, man?
Well, having a good time, you know.
I hear that. I say take two because I'm going to admit, you know, we tried this thing. It didn't quite work out.
Right.
Well, we didn't have a race car in the background, a dirt car in the background then. We had a nice little fishing boat. Man, that thing was pretty.
Right.
I was excited to do the boat thing again, but now you've got something else in the shop.
Yeah. Well, we always have projects.
Okay, tell us a little bit about this project.
Well, just getting into some of this, this no prep racing has kind of struck my interest for some drag racing stuff, and not that I'm going to do it right away anytime soon, but I bought this as a project, and then I changed directions and bought another vehicle. So I've decided to build this one and maybe let my daughter try it out and see how she likes just drag racing.
Let her play with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in the process of putting this together. So it came in after we did our first take. So the boat's outside, and this isn't supposed to be here that long, and the boat's been outside too long already. So
how'd the fishing trip go? You were going fishing here like a week or so ago, wasn't you?
It was not good either. It was pretty much a struggle.
Okay.
We had the water was just terrible. The weather was terrible. We didn't do very well.
It's like a bad night at the racetrack.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it happens. I mean, it's fishing on, you know, they don't call it catching, that's for sure.
Right, it's called fishing.
And we had a good time. I mean, it's always a good time when you go, but just, you want to catch fish, man.
You want to catch fish?
The big fish, not the little fish.
Yeah.
We just tinker with it.
So let's talk about your career racing. How long you been out of the car? Couple years?
Yeah, I mean, well, on and off since 13, it's been an on and off type thing. I mean,
love-hate relationship.
We quit in 13, we started doing some rock racing, off-road, they called it rock bouncing, and we did mess that in 13 a little bit, but we got into it in 14 and then did it in 15, and then 16 we kind of really didn't mess with it too much, and then 17 we came back and did crate late models for the 1 year, me and David Willoughby. And then 18, then I was like, you know, I'm back to retirement. You know what I mean? I just got, I guess, taking up a lot of time. You know what I mean? I had other things I wanted to do, and so then in, I guess it was 2020, we bought a sport mod and did that for what we got to race in 2020, and then what we did some 2021 stuff, and then sold it. And
so how did you like the sport mod stuff?
I enjoyed it. Originally I thought, you know, you can go racing, you can build a whole car for, you know, 12 grand with a motor and all. And, you know, that's pretty much what we did. I mean, and we had a good time with it. And my daughter, she was pushing me to get into it. And Matthew, my stepson, was doing it. And so it was a good time to get and kind of go mess around and do it and enjoy it. And we had fun doing it. But I don't my focus isn't there. So, you know,
I think anything, if your focus isn't in it, your heart's not there, you're going to struggle, and you're going to it's not like it was.
Well, and for what we put into it, we got out of what we put into it. You know, we wasn't like winning every night, but we was competitive every night. You know what I mean? And honestly, we sure wasn't hitting it like we was back in the day. You know what I mean? And you know, we didn't live and breathe it. And we would race it on a Saturday. We'd bring home that trailer, and maybe the next following Friday night we'd get it out and clean it up a little bit and check some things over and go back Saturday. You know what I mean? I mean, it was still enjoyable. I mean, you know, and it was fun doing it like Matt and Dylan Willoughby and all them. It was fun, you know, racing around all them guys. And but you know, right now just. Then we'll go fishing and mess around with this and just not be committed to anything.
Just do it for fun.
Getting to that point in life where I want to just enjoy things. You know what I mean? I've always enjoyed things, but I mean, like I keep looking at Florida, like maybe I'd like to buy a place down there. You know what I mean? And go there and spend more time.
It's warm down there, huh?
Yeah, warm and fishing. You know, salt.
Fishing's better down there. Yeah.
Deep sea fishing would definitely be better down there.
I tell you what, I went deep sea fishing first time. A couple years ago, man, I loved it. It was a blast. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but man,
it's not cheap.
We spent a day out. We was about 20 miles out of the Keys, and man, we had a great time. It was with Michael Clemens, and a few of his buddies from down there. You know, and man, we had a great time. Caught a lot of fish. We caught more fish. We couldn't fit them all on this table. That's how much fish we caught.
Well, it's like. You know, I've only been I went to the Keys a few years back with my buddy Mike, and we had a great time down there fishing, and they have a boat down there, so it worked out well. And then when we went, not just a year or two ago, we went to the Dolphin Island, and we rented a charter, you know, had a charter for the day, and it was expensive. And then we went about 30 miles out, but we caught some awesome fish, and I could do that every day.
Man, I wanted a sailfish so bad. I was trying so hard.
That's a specialty type fish there. You got to hit them on the right time of year. And
so we were on our way back, and man, we had a good day. And the captain, he knew, because I talked about it. I said, man, that was my goal. That was what I want. I would trade all those fish if I can get a sailfish. And I told the wife, I said, hey, if I catch one, I'm getting it mounted. I don't care. I wanted it over my fireplace, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm like, God, I wanted it so bad. He tried, man. We went to this certain place on our way back. He's like, this is a good spot for them.
Really?
We was on our way through, and these daggone seagulls kept messing with the bait. I was like, get away, man.
When we were in the Keys, we would literally have bait like by the boat, putting it on, and these seagulls come back to the boat. Like, you had to run him off the boat, you know. Yeah. Like, get out of here. I mean, it was.
Oh man.
It was I love it down there. I mean, and like I tell the wife, I'm like, I started kind of looking around, you know what I mean? I'm like, hey, like found this place. She's like, you know, like why don't we wait like 3 years? So I'm like, we could pay this off and have the house paid for. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Whew, I still like the look though.
It's a tough wait, ain't it? It's hard to be patient sometimes.
Oh yeah. I mean, but there's some neat places down there. We're going to look around, and I'm not so much looking to be on the coast. I want to look more inland, like around that chain of lakes area.
Okay.
Which is off of 40 area, off of 40, so it's just down from Volusia. So you and then you're just not too far from East Bay. I mean, like we'll be like kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And you can freshwater fish there, and then go to the coast and fish the saltwater.
Yeah. It's
going to happen. I just don't know when yet.
Eventually, Shawn's going to go fishing.
Oh, Shawn will be there.
That's the retirement plan. Huh?
Yeah.
or before retirement.
That's what I tried to tell my wife. I'm like, I'm retiring in about 5 years. She goes, 5 years? She's like, she goes, wait a minute, you won't even be 60 yet. I'm like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, well, we better start saving now.
Okay, maybe a little longer then. Yeah, I need to start saving.
Right.
That's one thing in dirt race I never save.
These things make it hard to save money.
Oh, man. Everything makes it hard to save money. But
that ain't no lie.
I'm just, I never was a good investor or saver.
I can't say that I've been financially the smartest guy in the world either.
You know,
I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's like when you're younger, and and you always think it's hindsight, and you always hear, you need to be investing in some property, young man. You need to be buying some land, because that stuff's going to be, you're 20 years old, like land? Right.
I want cars.
I'd have been smart.
Right. I want cars and wheels and stereos.
Right. I would be in a lot better situation if I had listened to somebody. But at the time, when you're 20 and you can buy this piece of land for, $10,000.
Sure.
Well, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
That piece of property was $10,000 worth $250,000 today, you know what I mean, or $200,000. It's like,
but it's not a lot of money when you're buying a race car. That's a cheap
right. Detail. That's all that is details. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take any of it back. I mean, I've enjoyed it all the way, and we're very fortunate where we're at in life. So.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get too far off the subject, too much, let's talk about where you started at. Let's talk about your first race car. Right?
My first race car.
Did I understand this was an aunt and uncle that helped you out?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. My Uncle Robert, my Aunt Brenda, is kind of how it all. They was when we were younger, when we were kids. They took us to the racetrack a lot before we was old enough to kind of go to the racetrack by ourselves. So we went with them a lot. Spent a lot of time up in like turn 2 there, standing on the back of the old wrecker.
Yeah, on the tailgates and the chairs up there.
The turn 2, box of cold chicken is on, you know what I mean? And so it started out kind of that way, and then we started talking about wanting to race, and then, I worked at a towing company, and we impounded an old car, it was an old Camaro, and I was talking to my Uncle Robert, and I had an old chassis I bought down here in the street from a junkyard down here, and it just kind of all started, and Robert's like, I'll help you do it. And so it kind of went from there, and we built our first car, and we learned a lot. I mean, we did a lot of things that weren't probably correct at the time, but it got it together, and we was racing, you know what I mean? And
right.
We had learned about engines, and, I remember the first night out, I think the fan belts came off like the first lap, and I didn't realize that till like the 10th lap. And I couldn't see nothing but, I couldn't see anything. I was holding on like this. I mean,
white knuckled.
Temperature gauge is wrapped around. I'm like, that smells funny. I don't know what's wrong with it. Yeah. Well, they got no belts on. That's one of the problems.
That'll do it.
You learn pretty quick from your mistakes. I mean, I guess you'd say. And
sometimes
it started
you get
there.
Expensive.
Yeah, and Robert and Brenda pretty much all the way through racing has helped me all the way since I started. I mean, they've always been there. And, of course, a lot of other family members have helped me along the way, and a lot of friends. I mean, it's just been it was a good ride. I mean, we always wanted to be at that level we never could really compete at. I mean, we would try, and we spent money to do it, but it's just some of them guys you try to run around and chase some of that bigger races. Them guys were tough to compete with. I mean, your Chad Kenders, your Denny Swartz, your Jeff Likas. I mean,
these are guys that are serious about it.
Oh, I mean, they was funded well. I don't know if they was all funded well, but they had good stuff. You know what I mean? And, we thought we had good engines, but our good engine made 620 horsepower.
Right.
Their good engine made 720 horsepower. You know what I mean? And
it's tough to do when you're outpowered.
Yeah, well, and you always see that. The issue with the powering is always early in the night. Qualifying, and you always seem to qualify on the big shows. You know what I mean? Well, the tracks always seem to be muddy and always seem to be hooked up. Late in the night when it dried up slick, we was good. You know what I mean? But now we're starting 20th. You know what I mean?
Which was great back in the day at Florence.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Equals out the playing field a little bit.
Right, but yeah, so we got started with that, and that's how it all kind of pretty much went through most of our racing times.
So this first car was like a Camaro.
Yeah.
And then you stayed in this class for a little while until it became like the Super Dirts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we stayed in it, till 2002, I think it was. Was when we got our first modified, which we bought from Petra Crew's sister.
Okay.
And that was an old Masterbuilt. And then we raced that mostly at Lawrenceburg. I don't know why. Just took off and was racing in Lawrenceburg, an old leaf spring car, and we had a lot of fun in that thing.
I felt like you could, leaf spring cars were competitive on the old Lawrenceburg.
Oh, yeah. And
which one 02 was, the old Lawrenceburg.
And I mean, we took the motor right out of the street, the Super Dirt, and put it right in it. I mean, it was just an old steel-headed motor at the time, and it was a good, decent piece, but it wasn't, And we had a great time doing it, and we raced that old car for, I think, just the 1 year, and then maybe 2, I don't remember. And then the next year we got an Avenger car from, I don't even remember where it came from. It was maybe Kelly Hamilton or somebody had it, and I got it from them or something.
So speaking of Avengers, there was a Avenger Super Dirt stock you had a ride for. Tell me about this one.
Well, so in '99 we came. I raced in '96, and then I built that car in '96. And to get to that point, like it would have been like '96. I was going to build a new car. Well, that's when I was talking to Ron Landers.
Okay.
And he had Billy T car and built him like a clip car, Masterbuilt car. Mm-hmm. It wasn't done. It was just a chassis basically, and it had the floor pan and firewall. And Ron's like, he knew I wanted it. I wanted that. It was like the turn of that when you could run that clip car.
Yes.
And so I'm like, I really want this thing. And Ron's like, well, And so he took an old junk car I was driving, trading me about even for it. I don't even know. I mean, which was, he just was helping me out. That's all he was doing. He was always a great dude to me.
Yeah.
So we went up, I remember bringing it home, and I had to build the rear end for it, the front control arms. And I built a lot of cool stuff for that car. That was a learning curve for me. I did stuff that I'd never done. I actually built the rear end housing, spindles. Now I can say, I actually built the front control arms with stock GM control arms and made it all wider in the front by using the stock mounts, but I used all welded-in Chrysler ball joint rings and stuff and plated the holes and just made it all different.
May or may not have been in the rule book.
It was not in the rule book. It couldn't have aftermarket control arms, but these weren't aftermarket. They were factory stamped control arms.
Yeah.
So we built that car in '96, and it took me a minute to get it rolling. But man, once it got rolling, that thing was fast. So he ended up running second in points a year. Took it to Cavalcade and ended up selling it to Holman Chevrolet.
Now, that's what I was going to say. That was my next question. Now, this is the car you sold for like $250,000.
Yeah.
I heard you got
close to that. But
I heard you got big money out of it.
In that day for Super Dirt, it was a fair amount of money. I didn't really intend on selling it. We took it, we was preparing it to race, and when it all came about, and then I thought, they're not going to buy it for this, so I put a price on it that I thought would not sell.
This is the not sell price,
and then it sold. So that was like a woo. So here I am. It's like February or March, and I ain't got no race car now. I'm like,
what am I going to do?
I got this check right here. So went on another adventure for a couple years with that, and ended up doing some detailing. And then got out back in the '99. I built a car that my Uncle Robert had bought at an auction. It was an old G-Force chassis, an old Freddie Smith car.
Okay.
And then built that in '99 and raced it and had a great time. That's the year me and Travis Camp really raced a lot we raced hard for that championship that year. And I got disqualified for being light one night at the scales. And
What?
Yeah, can you believe they called me light? Like,
that's the best. Like, come on, man.
I bought the scale.
BP.
I bought some used. It wasn't BP, see? Because the week before.
There's where the problem
Week before, I run second to traffic camp. We come across you. You're good. And I rolled on across. So come the next weekend, I run second, and I come across it. I think it was, I don't remember there was a sanctioning body there for the late models that used to come, and it reminded me they were out of Indiana. Like, and I wouldn't say Darf. It wasn't Darf. It was,
it wasn't the Bob.
No, it wasn't the Bobs, but it was like, the 89 car raced with them a lot. Steve Barnett.
Barnett,
they raced with them a lot. But I thought it was a sanctioning body like out of Indiana.
Like the Alm series or something?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's right there.
For whatever reason, at the scales, which has nothing to do with Ford.
Yeah, so why were they running the scales?
And they were running, and they're like, "You're light." I'm like, "Oh, boy, I'm not light." You're light. I'm like, back off, back on. You're light. I'm like, I've never been called light in my life. You know what I mean? I'm light now. So I argue back and forth with it. And me and Jerry are like, Jerry, there's no way. I was not light last week. So I went home.
Yeah.
And I rescaled it. And that's when I realized there's a thing you have to do with this. I never had digital scales. I always had the old grain scales.
Yeah.
When you have to put them all together and then zero them before you set any weight on them. So when I zeroed them and set it on it, because I thought when I built it, I'm like, man, this thing's heavy. I ain't got to put no load on it. It was 200 pounds light.
No kidding.
So I had to call Jerry. And I'm like, I apologize. I mean, I was light, you know what I mean? So we fixed the problem.
Wow.
And then we fixed the cylinders. But that disqualification cost me a lot of points that night.
Yeah, I bet.
And I think we lost the point by a small margin that year. And
really?
But it was a great time. I mean, you know. So then in 2000, that's how the Avenger became about. Me and Larry Moreland got to talking, and he was in the process of building these chassis, which was coming out of Patrick Krug's shop.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? I'm like, well, heck yeah, I can drive for Larry Moreland. I'm in. That's right, let's do this.
You said it, yeah.
And he's been great to me all the years prior, you know what I mean, helping me along the way. And so we did it. And I mean, it was, man, you talk about a beautiful piece. I mean, like, when Patrick got done with that car, I was like, this thing is on. I mean,
it's
too fancy for me. You know what I mean? Like,
you boys,
look at these fits and look at how nice this fits. I mean, like, this is just not for me.
Yeah.
And it was just, we struggled the first couple weekends, like just some little stuff with it. But man, once it got rolling, that thing was super fast. And, and that chassis could have rolled along for a long while in the Super Dirt class if it would have stayed in existence. But you know, that's like anything and everything, all good stuff. Comes to an end, you know, because it just keeps escalating. There's no control over any class of dirt racing. If you've ever, I mean, you look at them, any supposedly lower class. I mean, it starts at this and then
it gets out of hand.
We need this transmission. Oh, we need this shock. Oh, we need this. We need that. We need that, and it just goes. It'll be cheaper if we can put Burt transmissions in it. It'll be safer if we can put Burt transmissions in it. Really, they ran standard shift transmissions for how many years before they had a Burt transmission?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know what?
In all honesty, though, it is really cheaper. I mean, if you sit and look at you think about the time you buy a quartermaster clutch, a hydraulic throw bearing, a flywheel, you know, all the other stuff. I mean,
dollar for dollar.
It is. I mean, and it's hard to argue that anymore because it wasn't that way.
Right.
But now it's gotten to now. I mean,
now it's got to the point where you can buy this
anything.
Low budget guys can get on the internet and they can buy used stuff because there are guys that are buying new stuff every year.
Right.
So a low budget guy can watch his pennies and.
Well, I was on the other day looking for an intake for this. Like, you know, I don't really need an intake. I just need fuel rails and injectors. Okay, injectors. If you bought just the injectors, was almost $400. The fuel rail kit was $300. So you're almost at $700.
Right.
Well, that's with no throttle body and no intake still.
Right.
Or you can buy the whole 5-tack intake for $900 with everything.
With everything.
I'm like, well, I ain't fighting this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Send me one.
So it's safe to say, and I've heard this before, racers are kind of our own worst enemy. Yeah, that's kind of agreeable.
Oh, it's 100% agreeable. I mean, you know,
we do it to ourselves.
We do. I mean, and if people want to, I mean, everybody complains about money when it comes to racing, but obviously, if you're worried about money, you don't need to probably be racing too much.
But at the exact same time, if you said, "Hey, I have something, whatever it is, something, whether it's a can of this or a device of that, guaranteed to make you a half a second faster."
Oh yeah.
How much is it?
Oh yeah.
How much is it?
I mean,
it's guaranteed.
How many times have you watched them do that? You know, I mean, and you watch this guy on this shock, and then next week this guy's got this shock. You know what I mean? And I was at the North South one time. I don't see nobody's name, but I watched somebody that I've known race late models, and like, oh man, we need these shocks. So they go and spend like
whatever
a ridiculous like $10,000 for these shocks.
Yeah.
To put on that car for the night, and
didn't do it.
It didn't fix it. I mean, it still didn't go fast enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and it's just I guess we're all creatures of some
kind of bad habit.
Just kind of, you know, you run down that hole and just keep chasing it. I mean,
right.
But it's took me a lot of places, and I've seen a lot of neat, interesting racetracks and met a lot of interesting people, and I would do it again.
So anybody that may have watched a recent episode, we'll say, I talked to one of your old buddies, and we sat down at this table in his shop, and told me, man, maybe on the racetrack we may not have got along so much on the racetrack, but man, we were like best buds in the pits.
Oh yeah. Who's this? Oh.
Yeah.
You talking about Tony?
I'm talking about Tony.
Yeah, we always got along pretty well. I mean, you know, we'd race hard, and I mean, there might be like something said when it's like, you know, you might have did this, you might have did that, but it wasn't like a, you know, I hate you now. Okay, I mean, you know, it wasn't like, because there was never nothing like it. It was just good racing with him. I mean, he was a competitive dude, and he was fast, man. They was always on their game. I mean, their stuff was always nice and always clean, and I mean, for my program to run competitively with his program, I mean, that's pretty good for me. I mean, you know, because man, I might not be always the most organized guy, but but we're pretty good on our program. I mean, we always tried to pride on not DNFs, like not having dumb things that knock you out of a race. You know what I mean? You can't avoid if you get in a wreck or if you cut a tire, but I mean, like, you know, battery cable fell off or gas cap fell off or fuel line come off the carburetor. I mean, you know,
some of that stuff can be avoidable.
Oh, 100% avoidable. I mean, a handful of wrenches from the front bumper to the back bumper keep you from doing having a lot of DNFs.
Dumb stuff.
Absolutely, for sure.
What was it we said? Man. Tag on it. I had a thought there, forgot what it was. We were talking about it, and he would tell us about some of his go-kart stuff. And I didn't realize some of the opportunities he passed up to come race street stocks, you know, super dirt stocks or whatever. I was like,
I didn't know that either. I
don't know if that was the right decision or not.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, you can't regret. I'm sure you don't regret it, but I mean, on the same hand, he could have been maybe a Formula One driver. You never know. You know what I mean?
I mean, he had a decent late model career. I mean, he run some good races.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm sure Formula One pays more than late models.
I mean, maybe. Probably.
But, you know, you can't. At the time, it's just like we talking about. You know, when you're young.
Yeah.
And then somebody tells you to buy a property, you're like, you're foolish. And somebody says, you want to go to Italy and work on go-karts, or you wanted to go dirt car late or dirt racing?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to street stock racing now, you know what I mean? You can't worry about that kind of stuff. But
I told him, I said, you know, when I started racing in 2000, so a couple years prior to that, you know, you and Tony and Spencer Watson and a couple other handful, I mean, you guys were the class of the field, and it's like, man, these are the guys I looked up to. It's like, hey, those are the guys that I want to race against someday. And
there was some good. There used to be some really good. There still is. I mean, I'm not saying there's not, but back then it was like such a large group. It seemed like, and there was a large quantity of cars.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like multiple times with the A and B features. You know what I mean? It was like, it was amazing how many cars was there for that. You know what I mean? And even in the quality of drivers and the quality of cars, I mean, you can look through the field and you can just go on and on and on about who was in it. And
A and B feature, 24 cars in both. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know where it goes. I mean, obviously I know where it goes. There's a lot of other things in this that people do now for entertainment or that do for, you know.
Sure.
When I was younger, I always thought, what would anybody do? What could they be doing besides not going to the dirt race?
What are you doing on a Friday or Sunday?
Yeah, why aren't you on a racetrack? I mean, I couldn't understand that. And now I can see it a little different, but
the older you get, the more things you see.
But back then, I didn't understand. I thought, if somebody ain't done a dirt track, I don't know what could you be wanting to do.
It was like, you know, I'm growing up. It was like, okay, I roller skated a lot, so it was like, okay, you're either at the football game on Friday night or the skating rink Friday night, and then you're at the racetrack on Saturday.
Right.
What else do you do?
Right. I mean, for many years, you could find me on any summer night or spring night or fall night. I mean, it wasn't too hard to figure out where I was at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And today, it might be harder to find me, but probably on the river somewhere.
Which spot in the rivers
or a
yeah,
lake
yeah.
or somewhere in Tennessee fishing or something.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I guess things change of your priorities and your things, and obviously you have a family and you get kids and But they all go to races too, so.
Now we do, yeah.
Yeah.
So we go from super dirt to modifieds. You raced modifieds for a while.
Yeah, we
did.
Good
Good run in the modifieds.
Yeah, we enjoyed the modified stuff. It was fun. We had some good racing all around. I mean, we run a lot. I think the first feature when I ever won the modified was actually at Whitewater Speedway.
Okay.
On a Thursday night or something. I don't know why we were there, and it was that was in an old Edge car that I had. That was out of Lima, and that was the first. I don't even know what year that was. Probably like the second or third, probably the third year, and I was in a mod by that time.
Okay, so that would have, I'm guessing 2003, 4, maybe 5.
No, it wasn't 5. It would have been.
Because you went to modifieds in 02.
02, I'm pretty sure, yeah, and then
so within a year or two.
02 or 3. I had that car. It would have been it had to have been 04, I guess, because. Oh, no, it was 05 because in late 05, boy, I might be saying this wrong. Maybe I was 06. It was 05 because I had that car early in the year, raced it for a while and ran around, had some good times with it, and decided I sold it for some reason. I don't even know why. And I started.
Somebody give you money for it.
Somewhere about that time, I started driving for old Redneck, Jay Turner and Jeff Turner and them, and their dad. We did that for a little bit. So that would have been 05 because I think in 06, boy, it all runs together. But I think I bought Billy Vaughn's Pierce car in 06.
Ah, the small cool one.
Yeah, and that thing was pretty awesome right out of the gate. I mean, I just, and it was amazing how dominant them cars were in that period of time.
How easy. So easy.
You couldn't hardly afford to buy one, though. I mean, it was just unbelievable to touch. I mean, we got into one of them, and I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, this is what they're supposed to do. I mean, it was just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we had that was a pretty enjoyable time there. We ran a lot of areas and a lot of races, and
right.
I mean, it's still as competitive. By the time we get in it, they've already been out for 4 years, and so everybody's got one now.
Catching up.
Now it's like who wants to be the better driver or try harder. You know what I mean? And
that's the truth.
We had some good runs, and we won some races, and we lost some races.
Yep. My first modified, when I moved to modifieds in 05, and I bought a car from Kevin Hartman, the black number 18. So, matter of fact, both my first Super Dirt, when I bought it, it was a number 18. It was the C18 from Chris Yoakum.
Okay,
So it was 18. I'm like, all right, well, at that time, Davey Mack. Davey Mack, he had moved out of the Super Dirt, so he was no longer in. So Chris was the last number 18 in that class. So I'm like, well, you know what? I can just razor knife this C real easy. Now I'm number 18.
Right.
So I did. That's how I got that one.
Right.
Then when I moved to the modifieds and I bought a car from Kevin Hartman.
Right.
It was already number 18. I'm like, well, I got to stick with this for a while. There's something here. Both my cars are 18. So I stuck with that for a little bit. And,
right.
That was an old DeWitt car. Gary DeWitt car. It was
the Cyclone. It was a Cyclone.
It was before the Cyclones.
Before the Cyclones.
Yes, before the Cyclones. Gary DeWitt and I believe the guy's name was Rick Monroe.
Oh, Rick Monroe, I remember.
Yeah. Those guys were building chassis together, and I can't remember if they were DeWitt cars or Monroe chassis, whatever. But them two were building cars together. I tell you what, it was at that time back then. It was the last car Ted Nobby had before Ted Nobby went to late models when he first started running late models. So Ted won the championship in this car, sold it to Kevin Hartman. Kevin ran it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
He ran second in that car, and then I bought it and couldn't hit nothing with it.
Well, it happened.
But hey, but now I had, at least I had something that I knew it would go, and it was just up to me to learn and get there.
Right.
And by the time I was doing that, obviously, everybody else is getting faster and better, so I'm just trying to catch up.
Right.
And by the time when I did get I had went to Billy Vaughn's too. I'm like, Billy, man, this car's not a Pierce car, but it's very similar. It's got basically the same kind of brackets. He said, come over to the shop, and anything you want to know, bring your pencil, paper. This was before cell phones, I believe. So I wasn't like taking pictures.
I don't know if it was before him, but it might have been before you had one.
It might have been before I had So I'm drawing my little diagrams and writing the notes and anything. I mean, he's just open book, you know, just really helping me out. And man, I can't tell you how much I appreciated that because it was the gospel, man. I mean, Billy was tough. You know, and for these cars to be so similar, you know, they were both the 4-bar Z-Link on the right side, and man, it helped me tremendously. So, a couple years later, I ended up with an old Pierce car, and man, that thing was the same thing. I mean, everything was just by the book. You got a Pierce book, and there's 3 holes, and it's how simple.
Don't use this one, use that one, use this one, don't use that one. And that's where them things became a situation where. To be any better, you kind of had to think a little bit outside the box and try some different things. But you didn't have to try very hard. I mean, because I felt like that them cars would be like you could pretty much roll at the racetrack every night when them cars would be 80%. You know what I mean? And you might be able to make up 10% of it. You know what I mean? But where them old spring behind cars and stuff, they're a little bit more touchy. You know what I mean? Like you either hit it, you miss it, or you're just. And them clamp cars, they're just like, we're just going to eat down through here. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. You know what I mean? And they just. You're not laying underneath them every night, twisting this bar and twisting that bar, and moving this spring jack. I mean, when we had that sport mod, we'd pull her to the racetrack, we'd pull her out of the trail, we'd go to the track, we'd hot lap, we'd heat race, we'd feature. We didn't change a tire. I mean, we ran the same 4 tires in that car from 2020 to when I sold it, except for one right rear tire.
Really?
We didn't put one right rear, and that's because it got a flat. I mean, that's what we ran on that car.
So the sport mods, not a bad.
I mean,
at the time.
It was. But I'm saying we didn't buy into the tire game. You know, like when I was racing and Billy was like on his heyday with his Pierce cars.
Pierce cars.
They bought a lot of tires.
Yes.
I bought a lot of secondhand tires from Billy.
I did too.
And I liked them a lot.
Kevin Hartman. I bought the car from him, so every week I was either going to Kevin or Billy getting decent used tires.
Absolutely.
Kevin told me every single week before he rolled out from that feature, that car had 4 brand new tires on it. So I'm leaving his shop and I'm starting to do the math on this.
You just gave him $80 for 4 of them.
Right.
And they gave $400 for 4 of them. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm doing the math and I'm like, wait a minute. Every week you spend this much money. I said, but if you won every week, you're only getting this much money. I'm like, this ain't making. I'm not.
Spend $400, you win $500. That's racing in general. You know, what I mean, we're not here to make money.
No.
Nobody remembers you ran second. You know, what I mean, everybody wants to. They know who won.
I guess you're paying to have fun, right?
Oh, yeah. Anything you want to do costs money if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
fishing ain't cheap, is it?
No, but it ain't nearly as bad. I can promise you that. I mean, the initial investment is fairly expensive for that boat, but once
it's just not the same fishing off the bank, is it?
Well, it's funny. You get a boat, you fish on the bank. You fish on the bank, you try to fish out in the middle. You know, it don't make sense. But no, the boat's in a large investment, but it has that particular model is a very good resaleable type unit.
So are race cars.
Yeah.
So are race cars. And drag cars.
Only did good on one of them.
The one you sold for $250,000.
Yeah, that one there. The $250,000 car. I should have kept that check. But, it's the racing's, it's been a great part, and it's been a great time. And I've been fortunate to live right next door to this Crown Jewel for, all my life. I mean, this place we're at now was my grandparents' house. So I spent growing up, this was where I was at on a lot of the weekends, and I used to sit up here at the corner at the Beaver Lake Trading Post. I couldn't actually sit at the corner until I got older. But before that, I'd sit out here and sleep. My grandpa had a camper in the driveway. Yeah. So I'd get up on the top of the camper, and I'd open the vent, and I'd watch them cars come down from the races at night.
Oh, yeah.
Try to determine who did what and how they go slow enough. But then it got to where I was a little bit older, and I'd kind of sneak out of the camper. Because they'd park up here at the corner. They'd go to the bar.
When it was the old Pink Pig,
And they'd park these cars in the old beer, like I said, they'd park them. Man, I just wandered around there parking lot, just looking at them things. Like, it's like,
this is cool.
No idea who they were.
Yeah.
But we'd stand up there in the evening and watch them go up to the racetrack. But when I was I used to get to go to the racetrack a little bit. My dad was here when I was like 5. I remember going when I was about 5 or 6, and I went up there with him, and he had an old car him and Uncle Robert had bought, and he was racing, and I don't know who spun him. I remember the number 28 on the car, and he'd wrecked and went in the infield. But I only remember going with him like once or twice, you know what I mean? And then I don't remember much more about it because he'd moved off and sold the car, and then like I said, I would go with my aunt and uncle, and I remember I'd go down there and stay with Brendan Roberts sometimes to go to the racetrack, or they'd pick me up and take me. But when we got to be about old enough to get to the racetrack, we'd walk to the racetrack.
Oh yeah,
and it was expensive to get in there when you was a kid.
Okay, so living this close, I gotta know, did you ever just drive the car straight to the track? Let's not pull it. Let's just drive the car up the hill to the racetrack. Did you ever do it just once?
I don't know that I ever done. I know when I lived at my old house, I believe I did, which was right past the speedway there on the left.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever drove it from here. I remember being at my old house one time, and I was walking up from the garage down the bottom, and I heard something. I looked out, and there goes Ottie's McWilliams in the late model. I thought, trailer must be broke down. He drove it. I don't know why he drove it, but he drove it to the track that night.
That's an easy way to scuff the tires.
Well, yeah, it does do that. I mean, I don't know if he had two cars going on or what the deal was, but I do remember him driving over one night.
I wonder if maybe he broke something, had to run home real quick. I don't know.
No, it was early because we hadn't even went to we was still loading up. We hadn't even loaded yet.
Okay.
So, and it was early in the night. I don't remember. I do remember, like, when I was a kid in the corner here, when you would turn here on Beaver Road, there was a little house sit down in Hollowell. Stan Freeman lived there.
Oh, okay.
Well, Stan would drive his race car from the racetrack down here or from here to the racetrack.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the story, but I thought he told me he'd gotten stopped before doing it.
Really?
But I don't remember the whole story.
Yeah.
But he used to do it. But I remember when I was about 5 years old, I lived in Florence there, where now it would be like where Ace Hardware is.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember watching a dirt car, like this would have been steel body cars, like Chevelles and stuff.
Yeah.
Drive down 42. And it was, it had a number on
Dixie
the door.
Highway.
It was painted like, it was US 42. It was painted like, I remember it was like an American flag paint job on it. And it was,
really?
And it drove down 42 going to the racetrack on a Saturday. I watched it drive by the house.
Kidding.
And I know he was coming here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, man, that's just, and I'm begging to go, you know what I mean? But it just didn't always work out.
Remember, Herbie Jewell
had
the tow truck and just pick the front
up
and put a belt around.
He'd pick it up from the back and then tie the front wheels. And Herbie, I did a lot of stuff. Herbie used to help me out a bunch back in the day. I mean, we'd have motor problems with this or motor. He'd have a block. I'd go get a block from him or a crank. And he was.
Man, old Herbie was a good guy, wasn't he?
I watched Herbie race before I ever started racing. I remember him out there racing around.
Yeah.
He was always fast. I mean, he always had a fast old car. Because when I was like in the teenage, I'd go by myself a lot, and I just sit on the front stretch up there, like coming off of turn 4,
right,
where the old stands were. Like you used to be able to drive across the infield there, but I didn't really know nobody, so I just go sit in the grandstands all the time there and watch the races, and boy, just watch them and think about it all the time. You know what I mean? And then it just, I don't know, it all changed. And I started hanging out with Dave McWilliams there, and
Davey Mack.
Yeah, and I started hanging out with him about.
Now you worked up there at their place.
I worked for Chuck I was fortunate to work for Chuck there for a long time. I don't know. I started there in like 92-ish, right about the time I started racing, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think I worked at Alice Towing when I built my cars at Alice Towing, so it had been like 91. And I kind of had to retire from that job because my driving record got a little,
sketchy.
Yeah, and I was kind of on what they call probation terms. So his insurance didn't like that. So
yeah.
And fortunately, Chuck was needing me to come. He asked me to come in and work for them, so I went to work for Chuck and them, which it was a great time to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Audie, you had Mike, you had David, and Audie's racing late models, Mike's racing late models, David's racing late models, or David's racing street stocks, and pure stocks, and that's how I got to hang around. Chuck was helping David, and man, that guy, we'd race everywhere, anytime. I mean, it didn't matter. We would load up an old junky something and take off. I mean, it didn't matter if it would run and start and drive.
We're racing it.
We'll hook that to the race car. You know what I mean? We'll take off and go to the track.
Right.
And that was an absolute wonderful time. I mean, we didn't have, if we'd have blown 2 tires on the way home, we probably wouldn't have been able to get home.
Didn't have 2 nickels to rub together.
No, and it was funny because as time goes on, I mean, David's tore up his fair share of trailers getting home and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he come home from Clay City one night. He'd just been driving a mod. It wasn't even his car, and it was one of them old car house trailers.
Okay.
That Chuck owned it, and the header on the modified stuck out the door. Like David pulls it on the trailer, and I guess that header is touching the tire. He takes off down the road, blows the tire.
Huh.
Well, he just puts another tire on. What happens? He takes off down the road, blows another tire because there's nothing there. But I think when he got home, he had 2 tires or something left on the trailer. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he come in there with he was a hoot for sure. But it was enjoyable. That was enjoyable. Working there with Chuck and Audie and Mike and all them guys, and because I mean they had, they was the same type deal. They was not funded like a lot of people, but they worked hard and they put the time in.
They had a passion for the sport, and they put into it.
We would sit there on a Saturday, and it was kind of funny because you'd be out back there, and I'd be over here parked and working on my car, and Audie would be in the garage, and you'd hear Chuck coming around and walking around the corner, and he'd be like, you'd hear him. He's like a tool check. I mean, he'd wait till Saturday. Everybody's trying to get ready to race. He's out there looking for a screwdriver. Everybody see my screwdriver? Looking for my ratchet. Anybody got my ratchet? I mean, nobody's even got him, but he's hunting them. You know what I mean? He's like, and it was every Saturday. Like you knew it was going to come at some point.
Right.
I think he was just wanting to come back and hang out, but he wanted to give everybody a hard time about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because Chuck was a character. I mean, he's a neat guy, and I was very fortunate to work for him and spend my time there. You know what I mean? It just,
I was having a conversation, since you brought up Chuck, I was having a conversation with probably another mutual friend of ours, Daryl Herbert. Mm-hmm. And Daryl's, it had to be an early north-south because I can't remember really many other races at Florence that they did like the driver introductions on the front stretch.
Right.
Maybe they did, but I don't remember that.
They used to do them quite a bit, but early on for sure.
Early on, yeah. So Daryl said he's sitting in his car there, and he'd already been introduced. He's sitting in his car, and Chuck comes walking by. Chuck was going to get in his car, and Chuck just walked by, and he just kicks us right front tire, just kicks it real hard as he's walking by. Daryl's like, why'd he kick my tire? What's wrong with him? Why'd he kick my tire? Got in his head. Yeah. The whole race, he worried about why'd Chuck kick my tire.
It just
got in his head.
Games, yeah. Messing with him a little bit there. That's interesting. That would be Chuck for sure.
That sounds like a Chuck story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember watching, like, when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time, like I said, when I was in my younger teenage years, watching Chuck and them race. And, like, he was racing at that time, I think he was racing for Calvin.
Okay, yeah.
They was racing. I think Kenny might have been racing a little bit too because they had two number 7s. I thought one might have been like a C7 and one was a 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Purple like scheme with white bodies.
Yes.
And I don't remember what happened, but they was coming down the front stretch there, and I want to say I'm pretty sure it was a Chuck Folks situation where he was driving a car that he had just bought from Roy Landrum.
Okay.
And he'd gotten turned, or he turned somebody, or got mad, and they comes to a wrecking down that front stretch, and there was race cars torn up
everywhere
from the flag stand to turn 1 there. I mean, there was parts on the outside of the racetrack, and I remember Chuck was driving one of them cars, and I don't remember Kenny was driving it or not, because I think he, at some point in there, he was like a broken arm or broken wrist or something.
Yeah.
But it seemed like both of Calvin's cars. I thought there was 2 cars of his there, and I may be wrong.
They both got tore up.
Oh man, that's that car that Chuck Folks had just bought from Roy Landrum was torn up so bad they just put it on a rollback. It was destroyed.
Done.
I mean, and I'm like, and I don't remember why it even happened, but it was something to do with Chuck Folks. I remember that, but I remember it tore up a lot of good race cars.
A lot of good race cars.
Yeah, that was.
Do you remember the? I think it was. Oh gosh, I can see his face. I'm just drawing a blank. He had the black. It was a 7-Up Gold car.
Gold.
Remember when when 7-Up they were doing a promotion deal? It would change from 7-Up. It was 7-Up Gold, but it was a black can and had like a gold 7-Up on the can. And oh man, I could see his face. Muggavan.
Oh, John
Muggavan had it was 7-Up Gold. He had a black car and had the gold 7-Up on it.
I don't remember that car. I remember like the 7-Up, the white with the green stripes on it car, and I remember like they had a big red car at one time too.
Right.
And I think John might have drove that car, but I don't remember the gold 7-Up Gold.
Now, for some reason, I seemed like I had pictures or had a picture one time of John Whitney Sr. driving a 7-Up car. Maybe he might have drove it for Calvin at one time. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, I don't know.
But I could have swore that
now
I got a picture.
You say Little John or John Whitney Sr.?
Senior.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I only know Little John. I only know Little John Whitney.
Yeah. I'll have to ask him.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of different guys. I mean, if you could sit there and really think about watching the races, I mean, like looking back at when I was young and just watching stuff. I mean, there was, I remember the Sportsman days, man. That was that was my favorite class. I mean, like
that's what Jerry Rice said. He said that was the funnest class.
Him and Audie and Troy Green and Gary Green and Dave Rouse and you had the Alliers, you had Jack Rice, you had so many.
Jesse Lay was in there too.
Yeah, Jesse
in the
Lay.
Sportsman class.
Oh yeah, for sure, Jesse. You had Kurt Addison, because I remember Kurt had. I always watched Kurt race because he had sponsored somehow by Dempsey Truck or Larry Dempsey's Towing or Garage Appearance. Yeah. I don't know how I remembered him, but Kurt would always and he got real fast there for a while. And I remember one night coming off of turn 2. This is when people were still parked in the infield, and then you had coming down the backstretch, you had a big dirt mound right where you crossed the racetrack, and there was a telephone pole on it, and there was a lights, the caution lights. And they come off the corner, and it was him and I think it was that number 2 Awyer or 02 or something. And he clipped, somehow Kurt was leading, and he clipped him in the quarter panel, and it turned him in that way towards the infield. And he went up hit that dirt and climbed that pole, straight up that pole, like it come straight back and slammed on the ground.
Wow.
It ended up, I think it broke his back or something.
Ouch.
Messed him up pretty bad. But he was out of race for a long time after that. But I remember, because Kurt was, I'd always paid attention to him because he was just seemed like he was getting faster all the time.
Yeah.
And it's weird how people catch your eye, because Jerry Rice was always fast. Audie was always fast. Mike McWilliams was, all them guys were in that Sportsman day, man. You talk about the greens and what's his name? Ernie Ledford.
Ernie Ledford.
Oh, that guy was Colt 45, baby. Yeah. and Eric Shepard's dad, Rich Shepard, was racing back in then.
And our old buddy Larry Moreland,
Senior. Big Larry.
Big Larry, man.
Big Larry. You had
tough.
Jesse Lay. You had Tony Lay at someone's racing. You had Donnie Martin rent a Sportsman car. Chris Weatherall. I remember, I think it was a Mother's Day race, and I was sitting on the front stretch, sitting there off of turn 4, and it was Larry Moreland, Tony Lay, Donnie Martin, and I don't remember but somebody turned more or something, and somebody hit him in the side. At the time, they had them old wedge nose on him.
Yes. And
it went under Big Larry's side of his car, and it flipped him up in the air. He started flipping, and the roof flew off. And you could see him in there, just had his head down, holding on to the seatbelts. That thing barrel rolling down the front stretch.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the grandstand, and I'm watching the rest of the race. They get them all off the racetrack and everything. Yeah. And later on that night, I got hit now with a rock sitting in the grandstands. And I remember I was driving because I had to drive myself to the hospital. One eye was all jacked up. And then they had to come get me from the hospital. But I remember that wreck, and it was on, I want to say I think it was Mother's Day, and I might have the days messed up, but I know it was a Sunday race. I'm almost sure of that when I say that.
Okay.
And because my uncle was in town from Florida. All them guys, man, that was some of the coolest racing.
I remember when Larry had the 74, the Skips car.
Oh, yeah, that's what that was what this car was, I think.
It was the Skips car.
I'm pretty confident saying that, but it was before the 21 Moreland, 21 on the quarter panel. It was before that. I'm pretty sure it was a Skips car.
Yeah.
I do remember
that would have been more
the
Time Auto Sales 21 car. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, because this would have been I'm going back to 87, 88.
I don't remember which one it was, and you might. And I tell you this, remember, I guess he flipped over one night crossing the checkered flag or coming to the checkered flag. The next week, they had a skateboard tied to the roof of the car. They said, so if he flips this time, he's just going to slide.
I don't remember that.
Little Larry remember that one.
I don't remember that one because it's there's
I remember him pulling into the racetrack, and there's a skateboard. They had it zip tied to the roof. I'm like, what the?
Well, it's had a good humor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because back then there's a lot of excitement at the racetracks, and there's a lot of people at the racetracks.
I feel like that Sportsman class, that was our super dirt days.
Man, it was. I tell you, I remember one year Jerry Rice he always had a black and red number 14 forever, but he got this. And I think he got it from a guy, his last name of Shepard as well, but it wasn't Erickson in relation.
Yeah,
he's from over here in Florida, or this area here, and he bought this car, man, and it was like having them fiberglass roofs on it, maybe fiberglass quarter. I don't remember. Yeah. The number 15.
I got pictures of that car.
Orange and white and blue or something.
Yep, I got a picture of that thing.
And that thing, man, he'd come out and he was kicking their tails, son. I remember, and I remember one night he comes out and it may have been, and I don't know if it was hot lapping or if it was qualifying, but I think the drive shaft and the transmission and everything come out going down the backstretch.
Yeah.
I think it was. And I can't recall. I just remember something broke. And I was in this grandstand, so I wasn't on hands, I'm just sitting there watching. And then And I thought, and then he'd have to tell you this, but I thought he fixed it that night, and he ended up coming out and winning that feature. Like, I think he might even had to start on the tail, or I don't remember the whole deal.
Out and wax them.
Oh, yeah. But, like, there was, like, Audie does the same way. I mean, he'd come out there, man, and he put on a show, man. Him and Mike come out in his Sportsman days. He was kind of like, him and J.R. Rich was kind of like really dialed in on, they built a car. And it was, I would say it was probably fairly advanced. And they won a lot of races in that car. And then it went on to be sold to somebody else, and then they raced it. And they actually became what they called a B late model, I think, at the time. Or when they did that, they kind of blended the Sportsman and the late models together at one point or something. Yeah. And
Jerry had some good stories about that, too. He said that they showed up one night, and they didn't quite have enough super late models or something, or vice versa. There wasn't enough Sportsman or whatever, so he come up and said, hey, we're going to make the Sportsman cars going to run with the super late model.
Well, see, they did that. I remember that doing this.
And Jerry was like, oh, man, we're going to run with the big boys tonight. And he said him and Audie and I can't remember who else. He said, man, he wasn't expecting it. He said, next thing you know, he's passing cars. He's moving forward. Oh, yeah. He's like, he said that was big time stuff. That was.
That's what I'm saying. That was just such a neat time back then. I mean, and I didn't know any of them guys at the time because I wasn't, like I said, I hadn't been involved in it. I never even went in the pits. I just sat in the stands all the time. You know what I mean? And then once you get to know it and get involved, but it was just to be on the outside looking in. It was really cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that. And I really did. The Sportsman class was the class because there was rivalries.
Sure. Yes.
Like, I mean, the Greens. And I think Audie and them maybe didn't get along as well sometimes. And like I think Troy Green and Dave Rouse had a problem with each other.
Okay.
And Dave Rouse, man, I liked him. I thought he did a great job at clean driving, you know what I mean? And always enjoyed watching Dave race. And I enjoyed watching all of them race because it was great racing.
Yeah.
And, and then there's other names there that I can't remember. There was a guy, last name was a Bradley or something. He used to be a pretty neat guy to watch. And, there was even back then because they called him the mini stocks.
Yeah. I remember those.
That was cool.
The one that stands out.
That was a 500 car, and there was a Shell car.
Wasn't that Jim Shell?
Yeah, that was Jim Shell. He bought, like, according to Ron Landers, and he'd be able to tell you better about that big Ron. I think he had one of the baddest little mini stocks.
Yeah.
That Jim Shell had one of the baddest mini stocks everywhere. He bought whatever it was, the best one you have. And they went and raced some big champion or big series race somewhere and stuff, and I don't know how it all went. I can't remember all that stuff.
I hope I just deleted a bunch of pictures today. I hope I didn't delete. I'm pretty sure I still have a picture of that 15 car that we were talking about, the Jerry Rice.
Oh yeah,
I had a picture of that thing. It might have made it on his video, so it might be on there. I have to go back and double check.
Oh yeah, that was neat times. I mean, and I don't know, just anymore. It's a little different for you.
It's a little different.
Oh, it's a lot different.
It's a lot different.
But
I remember after the races. When we used to hang out in the pits and have a good time after the races.
We used to spend a lot of time in the backstretch after the races.
Do you remember a time me, you, and Jimmy Patrick?
Oh, yeah. Spent a lot of time with that guy.
It was probably the $1 million car that you sold him. I think we filled it up with beer cans. The cockpit.
Man, I can't even recall. I know we spent a lot of time sitting on the backstretch chair because we'd even like that's terrible. I can't remember the guy's name that used to work at the racetrack, and I know him very well. The big beard, Big Mike.
Oh, Fuzzy.
Yeah. He'd come out and hang out with us on it. We'd sit back there for hours at night. And we'd have some of the best times, and nobody does that anymore. When it's over, most people are like,
they're out.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a little different.
I think one night in particular, we were back there just hooting and hollering, having fun, and. I don't know why. I think it was the last race of the year, and they had a whole bunch of hamburger and hot dog buns. That the track was, Motor was like, here, I don't want to keep them all winter. We're not going to freeze them, whatever.
Right.
They gave them to us, so we're back here just pounding beers. Well, we needed something to eat, so we started eating this bread.
Yeah, it helps. It can't hurt, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was a little fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Old Zimmy.
Yeah.
The Keystone Bandit.
Oh, no. I ain't seen that guy in a long minute.
So,
I think I drove by his house. Or we used to be where he lived. I don't know if he still lives there, but it's been a minute ago. I mean, about a month ago, I was up there doing something.
Okay.
Picking up a tractor. And I drove through. I'm like, and as soon as I'm by the house, I'm like, I've been there before.
Yeah.
And I thought, I know that's his house. But I just drove right by there. And I ain't seen him in a long minute.
Now, if the stories are true, and I cannot confirm nor deny, but there was the real definition of a drinking team that had a racing problem.
For sure.
if I said that correctly.
I feel like I heard stories that there were times and him and his dad, maybe an uncle, that they get out there on a Saturday morning and start working on the race car and in the Calvinator and start getting them out. And by noon, they're too drunk to go anywhere.
We're just going to stay home, boys.
We're just gonna stay home
He never was like, I mean, back when we used to go to the racetrack, it wasn't like that. But like, we didn't have no problem after it was over. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, it was,
yeah.
He was a good time.
Yeah, old Jimmy, man.
Had a lot of fun with him. We've had a lot of fun with a lot of people when it comes to racing and doing things and going different places. And
yeah.
I remember when we went to sitting there. It was funny. I remember we went to Brown County one night. Florence rained out. It was me, Spencer. Can't remember who else all went, but I remember we're going to. Was you there? We're going to go to Brown County.
Yeah, we went to Brown County,
and I got there, and it was like I was in a 2-wheel drive truck, and I remember the hill was mud wet. I mean, I remember just hitting that thing, and I was 2-wheel drive, and I had a 28-foot enclosure. And I get about halfway up, and it starts sliding back, and I was like, come on, try it again, and I couldn't make it. Then this old boy comes down in an old junky truck with this old like grill bracket supporter, wraps a chain around that and around my front end of my truck. And I got a brand new dually, and I'm thinking, that chain comes off, this is going to hurt. He pulls up there, we get up there, we messed around him. I don't even think I got on the racetrack because I think it started raining and we messed around for a little bit. I think Spencer might have got out there once and somebody else, but then it just started raining again. So we never even got to really get on the track that day.
I know exactly the time you're talking about.
That's been a minute. That's back in like 2000-ish, probably. 2000, somewhere.
It was either 2000 or 2001.
Yeah, it had to be right in one of them.
Now, here's exactly how I remember this story. Mm-hmm. The reason I remember this is because Spencer ripped the transmission out of my car. Same. That just has to be the same time. Florence rains out, so we meet up there in Bethel, and we're going to Brown County.
Yeah.
We get out there, and it rained. It had rained. As soon as we get there, they held off on calling it. As soon as they called it, it rained out. They're done. As soon as they called it, it quit raining.
Yeah.
5 minutes, the sun is out.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So the sun is out. The ambulance had done left, and so we go. We talked to the guy. I think his name was Crawford. The guy that was running the place.
Couldn't tell you. I don't even know.
So we're like, hey, man, we came all the way out here, man. We can go out and just turn a few laps, We know it's sloppy and everything, and not doing any track paper. We just want to go out and make a few laps.
Right.
He's like, well, boys, he said, the ambulance done left. He says, so just don't do anything stupid. Well, Spencer had that nice car, that show car up in the enclosed trailer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so my hoopty is on the open trailer. I don't care. I'm going to turn some laps.
All right.
So I go out there, and, man, I was not set up or prepared. But I had the Florence gear in this thing, and I had the old 4-speed Muncie in that thing. And Bill Blair, Bill was there. He said, DJ, he says, hey, just keep it around the top, keep your RPMs up, and just be smooth. All right. So I did. And I don't think I looked horrible at it. You know, got around the place, looked all right, whatever. So I pull in, and I'm done. I made a handful of laps, whatever. Spencer comes up. Homer D, what do you say, man? Let me take her out there. Come on. This is my best Boomhauer, Spencer Watson, and everything. She's like, come on, man. You already got it all dirty and everything. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'll tell you what. I said, put your fuel in it and fix anything you tear up and have at it. All right. So Spencer takes her out there, and old Spencer's hot setup is not fourth gear. It's going to be third gear. That's the hot, because I got the old 529 or whatever gear that I was running at Florence, not at Brown County.
Yeah.
So we're going to do third gear. So he makes about 2, maybe 3 laps just on the wood, right?
Yeah.
Finally, this thing comes to a stop on the front stretch, and it's trying to go, but it ain't going.
Oh.
So the output shaft goes in the clutches, just snapped it clean off.
No.
Yeah. He said, well, I'll just drop her off the house tomorrow.
Yeah,
next week, I had a new transmission in there. Wow. It went from a 4-speed to a 3-speed, though. But
we got a discount.
I raced the next weekend, didn't miss a beat.
Absolutely.
But it was just Fun.
Oh, 100% fun. I remember we would try like a Florence race. I mean, I would sit there, and that's because it had to be like 2000 because I had a cell phone, and maybe 99 or 2000, and we couldn't, like, I remember Florence with me racing or whatever happened, and I remember I'd be like trying to get on, and it might have been before then. Because was Mike Stacy still racing in like 99 in the street stocks or 2000?
Ooh, yeah, that was because he went to modifieds before I did, so yeah, right around there. I think he was,
because I know I would I'd be calling everybody and I had a super dirt trying to like find somewhere to race and go, and I'd sit on the phone for hours trying to call them. Never did work out.
Yeah,
because I remember. Was it Mike? Yeah. Nah, I can't remember that. I ain't seen him forever either. Has anybody ever seen him?
You know what? He raced. The only reason I know is because I was at the Lawrenceburg for a little bit last year, and he raced a Hornet at Lawrenceburg a few times last year. Him and some buddies, they just want to go out and have fun, and they put this car together, and they were taking turns driving it every other week. And
Man, that's awesome.
I had seen him there doing it. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, and it seemed like a few years ago, I had seen him down at East Bay. Really? I went one of the Lucas races I went to, was working, and I look over, hey, there's Mike Stacy. Just on a whim, they decided to go down and check it out. So,
no kidding.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
He's still around somewhere.
Yeah, well, I'd seen, like, been a while now. There was something I don't know if he has a son or a daughter in some kind of sports or something.
Probably.
I can't remember what it was. They was going to college somewhere maybe.
Okay.
Terrible memory. Memory's a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, I guess.
Believe me.
Some things I'm okay with forgetting.
I can remember things from a long time ago before it's just weird how things just kind of get away from
I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
No.
But I knew every word to that song from 1980.
Yeah, right. No, I don't do that. Yeah. Oh. But yeah, we had an enjoyable time. Like I said, when we did a little bit of sport mod stuff, racing, and then after that we just we're gonna go fishing and play around, and
I
don't know, maybe if one day because my stepson Matt, I enjoy watching him race a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously his situation right now is he's got a new wife, a new baby, and so he's not doing.
He may get back into it at some point.
Boy, I'd love for him to. I mean, but I don't know how that works out.
What about this one? She gonna try this and
she gonna do this. She ain't gonna do no dirt racing.
She don't want to do no dirt racing, or you don't want her to do no dirt racing?
It ain't happening. I mean, I just
come on now.
She says she don't want to, but I mean, I don't. I think she's extremely smart and does it.
Okay.
I mean, and she's really handy and.
Yeah,
she's crafty. I mean, like she's very good on, like, she helps on all this kind of stuff. I mean, she'll help me work on boats and cars, and she worked down the marina place for the last 2 years, and she's handy. I mean, like, that's fortunate with all my kids. I mean, with my wife and the kids. I mean, they've supported all my dumbness for many years. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, Emily, Matthew, and Katie. I mean, they, whenever one of us they're racing, they're always there. You know what I mean? They seem to always be. If Katie starts racing this, I'm sure they'll all be there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mom will be hiding somewhere, probably a nervous wreck a little bit until because she don't. It's funny, she's not really a fan of this stuff. She's just said this makes her more nervous than dirt racing.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I guess because of the speed.
Yeah, maybe
at some point, but this is going to be a controlled speed situation for a while. You know what I mean?
Okay. And have a governor on it.
Yeah, I mean, get her feet wet and show her how to do burnouts and show her how to do this and how to stage.
Yeah.
But they say women are better at drag racing than men most of the time.
Really?
Yeah. They said their coordination and their motor skills are quicker and faster.
Really?
I don't know. I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
But I heard it.
That's what rumor is.
So, but we got plenty of projects to do. However many of them get done, that's another thing.
It's all in good fun, right?
All the time.
All in good fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Shawn, I think probably going to wrap things up. Anybody else that we didn't mention you need to think, or just anything that comes to mind that you need to rattle off before we close?
Boy, I mean, I can't remember that. I'm sure there's plenty of people that need, that's helped me along the way that I haven't mentioned. I mean, I consider name friends after friends.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd be here for
a couple more hours.
Well, I have to remember it. First, I have to remember.
First, I got to remember.
And then I can tell you about it. You know what I mean? So, but It's all been good.
Well,
I enjoy what you're doing. It's a pretty neat deal. I like watching these little shows. I mean,
good.
It's.
I hope other people do.
Yeah. I want to say I'm waiting to see who the next couple of ones are. I mean, because it's like you can when you do look at me, like the majority, I'm like you know them or I know them or I've been around them or seen them.
Yeah,
like,
we know a lot of the same people.
I'm like, interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Did you do one with Daryl Herbert? Have you done one?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I can see that coming. Me and Daryl, we've had conversations on the phone. You know,
Yeah.
we're buds
I
a little
haven't seen him
bit.
in a long minute.
Yeah, we talk a little bit. I've got a few that are still in the editing stage, and I've got a couple that's already edited and ready to post, and a couple of those are very entertaining. I've got some good stuff coming up.
Good.
I got some big names coming up, and we got some maybe some more Hornet drivers coming up too. I mean,
Absolutely.
I like hitting that variety, man.
Absolutely.
It's, I don't want to just get in a niche or I'm just doing this, but
no, you got to do them all.
And that's
takes all kinds of them to make you race.
Absolutely. I don't have an Earnhardt name or NASCAR stories, but I got a lot of good buddies, and
absolutely.
just like we've got some good stories that we've talked about tonight, and I think some of them are pretty entertaining, and maybe some of them we can't tell on camera, but
we'd rather not,
or we don't remember them.
That's always somebody's defense. I don't remember.
I don't recall it.
I don't recall that one like that. I don't think that's how it went down quite like that. But,
But hey.
Yeah.
So well, that's good, man. I'm glad you like it. I hope other people do too, and we'll keep this thing rolling for a while. And have fun with it.
It's enjoyable. I mean,
good deal.
There's so many people out there. I tell you, there ain't nothing better than listening to like people like listening to Chuck talk or or Vernon. I would love to. I don't know where they do that. Like when Slicker does that little thing with some of them older drivers, they get together somewhere. I'd love to just be like sitting in a corner and listening to that.
Just set that microphone right there and just walk away.
It's so interesting. I mean, and Chuck, he's got some cool old stories, and he knows he's been through a lot and raced with a lot of people.
Chuck's episode in the Hall of Fame is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
I've got another Hall of Fame I did in the Hall of Fame. It's edited and coming up. I don't want to tell that one, but that is probably my favorite episode. It's probably my best piece.
Really?
Yeah. So you just got to keep watching.
Oh, I will. Absolutely will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good deal. All right, folks, we're going to sign off. I'm going to throw a checker flag on this session. Slingin Dirt Media, we've been in the shop here talking, rambling, whatever, for a while. Big Daddy Shawn Tolson. So hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for us. Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the track. Thanks.